Hello and welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. We're now in our 6th season, looking into the exciting happenings of Ipswich Town Football Club. My name is Mikey Pensy-Smith. This is the flagship show. And with Ipswich struggling with a serious goal drought, I'm joined by two men who are never wide of the mark. It's Craig Finbow and Seb Brown. How are you both?
Good, thank you, Mikey. Yeah,
good, thank you.
Thanks.
Yep, good, thanks.
But am I right in saying you'd both be a lot happier if our YouTube viewers liked this video and also subscribed if they're not subscribing already?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's the only way to get. Yeah, it's the only way to get all the best content instantly, isn't it? So yeah, hit that like and subscribe straight away.
Lovely stuff. It's been quite a busy week actually, Ipswich. So we'll crack on with the news, and I'll try and do most of this chronologically. So on Thursday, the exodus started at Town with goalkeeper coach Jimmy Walker being let go with immediate effects, with Paul Cook set to recruit a replacement. Seemed like a nice chap, didn't he, Seb? But no surprise that Cook is freshening things up.
Yeah, it's not really a shock, is it? Let's be honest. I think we'll see a bit more of this in the weeks to come. He seemed to be very highly rated within the game, but I guess some of his Twitter actions kind of, went against him a little bit. Was it the comment saying if we don't finish 4th, we should pack it all up at some point in November? That's not aged very well. So I was a little bit surprised that we haven't got somebody else in ready to replace him straight away. I kind of thought he'll be announced as going on the Thursday or whatever. On the Friday, they'll announce a new body, but I guess wait till the summer and see who's in what positions at what clubs, and Cook can start to really put his stamp on the back staff team.
Craig, you know a little bit about this temporary replacement, though, don't you? Can you smarten up our viewers and listeners on that?
Yeah, he's another member of the Brighton Massive. Carl Pentney, his name is. So I think if anyone sort of localish to me will know Carl, I'd certainly know his dad if you know local football. His old man played for Brighton, Clacton, Stanway probably, and sort of maybe Haybridge, these sort of teams around the area, and played hundreds of games for all these clubs. He's local to me, and his boy, I say his boy, probably about 30, early 30s, I reckon. And he's about 18 months ago, he stopped playing. So he would played non-league. He played for Maidenhead a fair bit, I think under Alan Devonshire, so in National League level. And about 18 months ago, he became the head of the goalkeeping coaches of the academy. And as an aside to that, he also has his own goalkeeping academy stroke courses for local kids and things like that. So my boy Oscar goes once or twice a week up to Colchester and has tuition from Carl and 2 or 3 other goalkeeper coaches. So I think he's well known in local circles. He's a lovely guy. And I say all the boys and girls that go to the goalkeeper coaches, get a lot from it. He's really good the way that he talks to people. Obviously, as Seb said, this will be a purely interim position until such time as we assume that the people or the person that Paul Cook wants is in a job at the moment, and we'll wait till the summer until their season's finished, and then everything will start to get pieced together, I'd have thought.
Absolutely, and this may be a little bit harsh, Seb, because he was only at the club for a short while, but could you argue that Jimmy Walker was a bit of a failure due to the goalkeeping performances we've seen and the younger goalkeepers being let go?
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. You as a coach, you've got to look to who have you improved in your time at the club. And last season, Norris and Holy were chopping and changing every few games, and we had a couple of bad mistakes from Norris. And then this year, Cornell's not really had much of a look in. But Holy has had some moments where you start to think, he's not going to be the man to take us forward with a promotion, hopefully next season, and then looking to press on. He is what he is. He's a League One mid-table goalkeeper, which for a League One mid-table side is okay. but neither of them in the last couple of years have really looked to push on. And like you said there with the 2 kids, with Harry Wright and with Pijbeck, neither of them have really done much either. Harry Wright was the one that disappointed me a little bit, because you always heard how good he was with the ball at his feet, etc. And you might have thought maybe if that's how we're going to look to play, either albeit under Lambert or Cook, maybe we'd start to see him in cup games, that sort of thing. But Whether that's just ability or Walker's coaching, I'm not sure. But he's not going to be one that you look back on and think, oh yeah, we were really, really sorry to let him go, because nothing's really improved in that department for the last 2-3 years now since Bart left.
I'd imagine that the guys that left, the two younger goalkeepers that left, also that's to do with their age, isn't it? In that they're now above the age limit for not being counted towards a squad, if you see what I mean. So
yeah, they'd
include as a number in what is now, and now they're reducing the number in the squad, aren't they, each year for 2 or 3 years? I think it's down to like 21 if it was 22 previously. So, what I would imagine will happen is we probably don't believe that one, if not both goalkeepers we've currently got will still be here, or certainly starting the match first game of the season in August. But any reserves you would have thought would probably be under that age bracket, wouldn't they? Just so it didn't count towards your numbers.
Well, there were some rumours on Twitter, weren't there? We've signed an American goalkeeper. It's not been confirmed anywhere, but there seems to be this train of thought that we have signed ourselves a new American guy for the under-23 side. So I guess he's the one who will look to push on. But like you said, crucially, he's under the age gap, so there's no issues with squad registrations and stuff.
Indeed. And later that same day, it was quite a busy one. We learned that Alan Judge won't be playing any further part this season as the club looks to avoid triggering a 1-year extension. I'm glad you're here, Craig, to run the rule over this one. A signing we were really excited about, and one that just hasn't worked out despite his best efforts. Yeah,
no, exactly that. We're not wishing ill on anyone. No, these guys at the end of the day are losing their jobs and looking to find new employment. So no one's going to be crowing or potentially happy about it. But as you say, Mikey, it just simply hasn't worked out, is it? It just, for some reason, he just never seemed to feel at home with us. He just never seemed to sort of get the feeling he was just settled properly or so. I think obviously we had the bid from QPR the summer after he joined, which in hindsight we probably should have taken, but you can look back in hindsight on a few of those. But you sort of got the feeling that he was just keen to get back to London and back in the M20, inside the M25. Obviously, we know that he's had bits and pieces going on off field as well, which probably hasn't helped matters. But we all know that, as you say, again, he tries his hardest. No one's ever going to question that. But it just didn't work out. And I know some people are saying, well, he wasn't often played in his position, but often he was played in his position.
Yep.
And even if he wasn't played in his position, you'd still hope that a player of that caliber and that experience would, A, stay in the position he was supposed to be playing in, but B, also have an impact on games regardless of where he's playing. If he's that good a player, have an impact on games. Score more goals than he did, set up more goals than he did. We won't see that Alan Judge scamper back to where he should be as the opposition's attacking sort of thing down the wing. And we saw what he could do in flashes, didn't we? He scored a couple of goals this season. He's pinged in a few decent balls, but it's just so few and far between. And again, but he's not alone in that. But it's all real demanding the ball from people, but very seldom did that actually move on to creating something meaningful often enough. I say it's interesting to see where he ends up really after 2 indifferent years with us. I'm not sure would he get a championship gig? Would Warburton have him again at QPR? I don't know if that would be the case. Luton maybe, MK Dons. I can't see him going too far afield really from around the, as I said before, sort of around the M25. So it'd be interesting to see. MK Dons might be a decent fit for him, to be fair, if they're after that sort of player, that sort of technically gifted, keep the ball, pass it backwards rather than pass it forward type play. He might fit in quite well at Milton Keynes.
It's such a strange one, isn't it? Because
and it's a shame,
it's
isn't
a little
it?
bit like Emmy Hughes, although without the injuries. We were so excited when we managed to sign him again after a really good loan spell.
Yeah,
and it just hasn't worked. And like you say, a lot of that was he had things going on off the pitch. And then also was having to play out wide. I think even once at Gillingham, we saw him playing up front and having long balls pumped up towards him. But we have seen him playing in his best position as well. And although we've seen glimpses of what he can do, it hasn't really worked out. And we're freshening things up. It's one that makes complete sense.
Yeah, but the thing, it's not as if he's been a bad player this year, is he? He's probably been
no
in your
since
top
January.
5 or 6 players, certainly this year, how do you say calendar year, he's probably been in the top 4 or 5 players this year.
Yeah.
But it's just a case of freshening things up, isn't it? And I don't think anybody's going to, concern themselves too much about him going. It's what's needed just to make things a bit more lively, really, up front, because he wants to play this. Cook wants to play this with 3 behind the central striker. You think that'd be bloody custom made for Alan Judge, but he should have been our little Wes Hoolahan, shouldn't he? But wasn't to be.
Yeah, indeed. So on Friday morning, we heard from Paul Cook himself, who revealed that he's going to be like a demolition man over the next 6 weeks. I'm going to quote him here. He says, "This is going to be a very unhappy club over the next 2 or 3 weeks because the changes are coming. When there are announcements on players, whether it be Troy Parrott, Luke Chambers, James Norwood or Caden Jackson, the club will make announcements." Seb, I think the entire fan base is very excited about the overhaul of this squad that's underachieving. Will you be disappointed to see many of them depart?
No, not really. I mean, let's be honest. It's been 5-6 years now of just decline, and the whole thing needs to be completely revamped. If what they said on April Fool's Day is accurate about wanting stats-based recruitment and whatnot, then there's no way these kind of players are going to be at the forefront of any of their models or graphs or whatever. They are just a squad of players who, on paper, should be, in theory, tearing up the league. But, are we all guilty of just sitting here for the last 18 months and thinking the players are a lot better than they are? I wasn't too surprised. Like going back to what you said about the Judge thing, I guess he's the first to go. I'd expect a few more maybe in the next couple of weeks before the end of season. If we're going to pay people off early, we might see an announcement on the likes of Hughes, etc. And I guess this is what's needed. All that didn't really sit right with me. There's a bit of a way of doing things, and I understand Cook is really frustrated, and I understand the Wimbledon result is probably the final straw. He's had so many weeks of players flattering to deceive and letting him down, but there is a bit of a kind of idea of, don't air your dirty laundry in public. And these are people who have got jobs and livelihoods and lifestyles. It didn't quite sit right with me the way he was, just sort of casting everyone aside so openly in public. But I guess, that is what we need. But potentially he is now putting a lot of pressure on himself as well. If he has this huge clear out of players and then we are still not performing when he brings his own people in, he's got nowhere else to hide. So a little bit surprised with the comments, not overly happy with the way it was said, but as fans, we would all agree that an overhaul is massively needed. Yeah,
Craig, I was going to ask you the question: is he really putting pressure on himself? Does he need to? Do you think maybe because things haven't gone so well for him on the pitch that he feels like he needs to make a bit of an alpha male statement?
Yeah, possibly. I think he said himself, and he's disappointed that he hasn't made more of a difference. But there are mitigating factors, we all know. But I'm 100% sure he's as annoyed, upset as anyone that he hasn't made the difference he wants. But as Seb said, the onus is now firmly on him. He's made a rod for his own back. He's going to have 10, 12, 14 brand new players. The ownership rather than investment, which he thought it was coming along in the summer, has probably ratcheted that up again a notch or two. He'll live and die by summer signings and autumn results, you'd have thought. His remit's probably changed, hasn't it? From being under Evans, he probably went from get us promoted within this budget, get us settled and stable in the bottom third of the championship again within this budget. That's now changed from get us promoted pretty much with unlimited budget, certainly in League One, and then we want to be going up another level very, very quickly within the championship. So the pressures was ratcheted up on him in any case through virtue of the ownership being in place rather than investment. And now with these words, he's sort of he doesn't like throwing players under the bus, but he does like throwing players under the bus, doesn't he? If that's not throwing players under the bus, I appreciate he's not like individually calling them out. Luke Chambers, you're rubbish, or whoever. Reminded
me of when people say, "I'm not being funny, but," and then they say something that is them being funny.
I'm not racist, but So again, talking about owners, it'll be interesting to see if actually going forward they actually have less patience than the fans when it comes to it, because I think the fans are pretty much 100%, almost 100% on board with Cook and what he's saying, and well, maybe not what he's saying, but not how he's saying, but certainly what he's saying and what he's trying to get across and what he's trying to do. But it may be that we're actually perversely going to be giving them a bit more time than owners who want to see results more quickly. I don't know.
The time to judge him, wasn't it? Ben said it a couple of pods ago. The time to judge him is going to be October time, isn't it? Like you said, he'll be bringing in 10, 12, 14 players. He's got 6 weeks of pre-season and a full window, and then he will be judged come late autumn, early winter next season, I guess. And like you said, his remit has changed now. So if he's not certainly in the playoff places or challenging for the automatics, you would think the pressure will come from above, and he can only blame himself, given that he's going to have a complete clear out and do things his own way, which is fair enough.
But he said himself, didn't he? Pretty much in his first interview, he said, "I need how many transfer windows do you need? How many pre-seasons do you need?" He said, "Well, one of each." Once he'd finished joking, he said one. But if you look at what he did at Chesterfield, Pompey, Wigan, pretty much he went in. I think Chesterfield he joined mid-season, and then the next season, once he'd had a pre-season, they won the league. Pompey he joined at the end of a season. After the pre-season, they won the season in his first season after a pre-season, and then Wigan again won it in his first. Sorry, no, Pompey finished 6th and then won the league. Wigan they won the league in his first season. So he does need this pre-season to get everyone drilled and get everyone focused and get everyone fit, which is something I'm sure we'll come on to in a little bit, to play the way that he wants them to play. So again, the pressure's on him.
Absolutely. And there's also going to be some pressure on the new CEO, Mark Ashton, who's going to be the man tasked with getting these moves over the line. Do you expect him to be a success in the transfer market, Seb, based on the job he's done at Bristol City?
Yeah, I mean, I can't pretend to be any kind of expert on him. I listened to the pod that Ben did, an excellent pod with the guy from Bristol, well worth a listen to get a bit of insight into the chap. But his track record was pretty reasonable. The guy on the pod with Ben kept saying that he's done things that aren't noticed by fans to a certain degree, and he's been very successful in those actions. So at least we'll have some proper structure in the club, and you'd like to think, having been in football for so long, he must have a decent Rolodex of contacts. I guess the crucial thing will be how will him and Cook, how are they going to work together, and how are they going to assign areas of responsibility? But at least we've got some sort of structure incoming, and I'm quite excited for what will happen with a proper definitive structure at the club, and somebody who's been empowered to make these kind of decisions on a fairly rapid basis, I would guess. I don't think we'll be messing around. The Fleetwood game is Sunday. Is it the 9th of May? He joins us on the 1st of June, or whatever it is, and I would expect that within a week or two, Cook will have all his backroom targets done. We might have a couple of players in, and hopefully it'll be like a conveyor belt. Next, getting them all in before the start of pre-season, because as Craig just said, that is crucial, and he's got a decent track record in doing that kind of stuff. So hopefully he'll do well, and we can only reap the rewards from it.
How big is it, Craig, that we get these deals done quickly at the start of June, as soon as the season finishes?
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's something that dear old Marcus wasn't particularly great at, was it? It was very much last knockings of pretty much every transfer window. We were getting people in, and they're both in and out, and hampering ourselves and hamstringing ourselves for the forthcoming season. But it's just it's a signal of intent, isn't it, more than anything, that we're getting a CEO from a championship club, and a guy who was championship, my God, what an award, an accolade, championship CEO of the year 2019. But to get him to come down, so that must be something. It's a signal of intent. He must be on a decent whack at Bristol City. So he must see something within our project to whet his appetite. Obviously, he knows Mike O'Leary from West Brom, I think, and Oxford. So they know each other well, and Mike O'Leary seems like a decent enough guy. So, as Seb said, the Bristol City fans haven't taken into it, or certainly haven't taken to him much in the last year or so. A lot to do with the manager appointment, and also injuries, strangely enough, that his medical team that he's put together hasn't been great. But what we're desperate for is just anybody to do that job, isn't it? We've got nothing to compare him to, because we haven't had anybody that does that job. So it's a brave new world for us, just to have a CEO and a guy running the club on a day-to-day basis. And I think it was the East Anglian. I think it might be Stuart Watson, an article that he wrote saying that their commercial income had grown 600% or something ridiculous like that at the same time where other clubs had grown by 50% or something along those lines. So just things like that is obviously why the guys have also brought him in, is for that sweating the asset, as we said previously, haven't you? Sweating Portman Road, getting it to do more stuff. The guys, I'm going to call it Layer Road, but Cole Hughes ground, there's always got bits and pieces going on there pre-COVID. You drive past it and there's always
usually tribute bands, but
yeah, that's right. Yeah, BG's tribute band or something. But or there's a comedy night, or there's a 70s night, or I know that they do. The local businesses do conferences there and team meetings and bits and pieces like that. So it's just being clever about what we've got and bringing in a bit more income.
Yeah.
What might be interesting actually, in terms of we just going back to Cook and the pressure he puts on him, is that. Michael Appleton was linked, wasn't he, and sort of is linked to O'Leary and a little bit to Ashton. So I'd probably be putting my money on him come October, November time if Paul Cook doesn't do the business and gets let go. Then he'd probably be a name that'd be at the top of their list going forward.
Anyway, well, hopefully it's a recipe for success, and we'll certainly be in need of a few players on the wings, which brings me nicely on to our message from our sponsors, Favourite Chicken and Ribs. And our Ipswich-based listeners can still enjoy a 20% discount by entering BM20 at the checkout page online. Just visit www.chicken-ipswich.co.uk or check out their Facebook page, www.facebook.com/favourite Ipswich delivery. And that's favourite spelt without a U. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm looking forward to taking advantage of that next time I'm in Suffolk.
Yeah, we're all going around Rich's, aren't we? Rich's new house.
Yep.
And he's
massive housewarming party with a platter, I think, is the plan, isn't it?
Winner, chicken dinner. So one man who probably won't be invited to Rich's homecoming party is Paul Lambert. And he's been speaking about town with the Sunday Herald. He said he left Ipswich in a more than decent place and he's looking forward to his next challenge. And I was thinking, surely he's going to mention Germany at some point. And of course, he did mention that he did play in Germany and that he wouldn't rule out managing there because there's 3 fantastic leagues there, which is kind of good. At least he's self-aware enough to acknowledge the 3 leagues rather than thinking he can walk into a Bundesliga job. Seb, did he leave us in a good place? Because it feels like he really didn't.
Well, I mean, yeah, he spent his last couple of interviews saying everything that was wrong with the club and the structure was awful and everything needed to be changed from top to bottom. And then 6-7 weeks later, he's out there saying he left it in a decent place. It's just his brand, isn't it? It's just he's got his eye now ready for his next challenge, whatever that may be. I think it'll be a difficult sell given that he's literally failed at every single club since he left Norwich now. So, he's doing his rounds of the paper. I'm sure he'll pop up on Talk Sport or Sky Sports in the next couple of weeks with his mates spouting the same old stuff, but it's very contradictory to go from saying the whole club is rotten, I'm not going to defend the owner anymore, everything needs to change, blah blah, to then 7 weeks later saying, yeah, I left it in a pretty good place, yeah, it's fine, etc. But we know what he's like, let's be honest.
He didn't leave it in a better position to what he found it.
yeah, no one mentioned that. Yeah, he was in the championship when he took over. Yeah,
exactly.
And is it any coincidence that the Bayern Munich manager announced he was leaving yesterday and this interview comes out? Do we think Lambert's got very high designs in Germany?
Coincidence, eh?
Brilliant. Yeah, lovely to hear from Lamberto. So, on to Saturday's game now. This is the part of the show where we talk about our latest 0-0 draw. So Ipswich travelled to Charlton for an overnight stay by the Thames before an afternoon at the Valley.
Yeah.
It looked like a nice hotel, that didn't it? Overlooking the river.
I think these guys never stayed in a hotel before. They're sticking it all on Instagram. All right. Well, we know you're in a hotel. We know it's in London, so
yeah. And James Norwood seemed frustrated that he didn't have the best view. He had to poke his head out the window to see the Thames.
Yeah, he was probably hanging out the window at the time.
Right? Yeah, he locked himself out.
dangling from the windowsill in just his dressing gown with his legs kicking with his slippers on. Yeah.
Wonderful. So
Maybe he was leaning out to tweak his hamstring.
Spoiler alert. So Paul Cook made 5 changes from the team who lost earlier in the week in South West London, as Kane Vincent-Young, Mark McGuinness, Andre Dizelle, Teddy Bishop and Keenan Bennett's all returned, with Chambers, Enciala, Drinan, Judge and Harrop missing out, with only Chambers and Drinan out of those making the bench. And as promised, as it will be between now and the rest of the season, it's going to be that 4-3-2-1 formation. So it was Holy in goal, Vincent-Young right back, Wolfenden and McGuinness centre-backs, Stephen Ward left back, Downs and Dizelle sitting in front of the back 4, Guion Edwards starting on the left, Bennett's on the right, and Bishop in that attacking midfield position behind Norwood. I'll quickly run through the Charlton team as well. Charlton more of a 4-3-3. Amos in goal, Matthews right back, Innes and Pearce the centre-backs, Purrington left back, Forster Kasky, Darren Prattley and Gibbley in midfield. Giassimi, Stockley and Miller up front for them. A half-decent Charlton side, isn't it, guys? But they seem to be in a similar state of affairs as us, where they're trying their best not to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
they're not the only one, though, are they? They're not the only team that's trying to not make the playoffs.
I was shocked when I think Brenner or somebody on the pre-match said they've only won 6 games at home all season, and yet they're still, they're still up there. So that was surprising. But yeah, like you just said, Craig, there's a lot of sides looking to throw this away, aren't there?
Mm. But 3 minutes in, Seb, via a set piece, we very nearly scored.
A shot on target, and then another one within minutes. Yeah, I mean, it was a decent delivery. Norwood gets across his man and forced a good save from the keeper. Bennett's following up, and I don't know if it was going in or not, but the guy, kicks it from just ahead of the line and puts it out for a corner. But it was a strong start and a decent set piece delivery for once, and 2 shots on target in the opening 3-4 minutes. And I kind of thought, maybe the rocket from the press conference the day before, his preferred formation, good set piece delivery. Are we maybe going to look to really crack on here and say out a statement? He kept saying he wanted people to step up to the plate, didn't he, in the previous week? And I thought, maybe we'll start to see some stuff now. But it all just kind of petered out from that point. Do we have another shot on target after that one? I can't remember too many more if there was a third shot on target.
I think the stats said we had 2. There was one in the second half where it got put across to Edwards, didn't it? And he had 1 touch, then he had another touch just to get it in exactly the right position where he needed it to dribble it towards goal. I don't know whether that counted towards our shots on target.
But we were spoiled in the first 3 minutes, weren't we?
Small steps, Seb. Small steps.
Yeah. You can't tell on iFollow, can you? Look, it's always worse on iFollow. So we're
yeah. Our main goal threat, as usual, Craig, is Norwood. But in the 25th minute, he pulls up lame with a hamstring injury. Could this be the last time we see him in an Ipswich Town shirt, do you think?
Well, yeah, it might be, mightn't it? And I don't know whether that's a shame or not, really. It's just been bloody Christ. Just been talking about Alan Judge having a frustrating couple of years. Now we're going to talk about James Norwood having a frustrating couple of years. When he's on the pitch and when he's fit, I'm bloody sure we haven't really ever seen him 100% fit ever since he sort of joined the club. Certainly not compared to what we saw from him at Tranmere when he was sprinting round Wembley for 120 minutes in the blazing hot sunshine in May, whenever it was. Reasons behind that, we can all make assumptions and have little guesses as to why that might be. Whether he's just been ridiculously unlucky, I don't know. Thing is, when he's on the pitch and when he's relatively fit, he does make a difference to us, doesn't he? He gives us something up front, something tangible up front to aim at, and he gives defenders a hard time when he's fit. But it's just that when he's fit, it's no good. Paul Cook isn't going to hang his hat on him being around for 2 or 3 games and then having 3 or 4 games off and then rinse and repeat, is it? You just can't do it. Now, you can sort of argue whether he's being brought back early because he is our only hope of having any sort of presence up front, and therefore, it's just a cumulative effect that he's never properly fit, so he's getting injured again, he's never properly fit, and he's getting injured again. If he is going to stay, then pre-season this summer, it needs to be a bit different to his pre-season of last summer, I suggest. That he needs to come back absolutely flying. He just seems to be just a slightly different sort of body shape to what he was at Tranmere. I don't know whether he's been spending more time in the gym, but he just seems to be a bit broader than he was when he was at Tranmere. But aren't we all? It's lockdown for you. But so he just doesn't seem to be that, say, as sprightly as he was at Tranmere. But he still does make a difference when he's playing. But he needs to be playing far more regularly. So, problem being, he's on a fair whack, isn't he? As we're led to believe, League One terms and League One level. So you got, if you don't want him here, you're going to have to find someone to take him off your hands and pay him if not his full wage, then a proportion of it, so we can sort of cover the rest, sort of thing. So it may be that he finds his spiritual home and level again, and ends up back at Tranmere or a lower League One club. But I've got no qualms with him staying if he can stay fit. But that's a bloody big if, isn't it?
He seems to like being the big fish in a little pond, doesn't he? And he's in a pretty little pond at Ipswich at the moment, isn't he? But he's still strikers.
The pond labelled strikers who can score is pretty bloody small. Yeah, you're right.
It's all there for him.
Even the way he plays golf annoys me. He goes around and just plays like local easy tracks and boasts about how brilliant he is at golf. Go
Flat track bully, that's called, mate. Flat track bully, they call that in cricket, don't they?
Absolutely. So Jackson comes on in his place, and he very nearly provides an assist for Keenan Bennett's, who, after a decent shot in the 3rd minute, sort of just goes back to his old shooting technique of absolutely blasting it into the stand. And although we didn't score, Seb, a much better first half performance, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It started to drop off a little bit towards half time, but it was a much more encouraging half. As Paul Cook said after the game, small steps, compared to the dross of Tuesday night, it wouldn't have been hard to do any worse, let's be honest. But it was a bit more encouraging. Dezelle was playing well. Bishop in the number 10 was looking to make things happen. And I was really pleased with the 4-2-3-1 because, Cook was changing it every other game and then changing things within game as well. And if that's what he wants to play, he needs to settle on that. And I think we might have started to see some of the benefits from that the other day. There were good performances all over the pitch. And, well, unfortunately, in the second half, it kind of petered out a little bit as the fitness started to drop. But it was an encouraging 45 minutes based on what we've seen in the last few weeks. But that is a relatively low bar, let's be honest.
A very low bar indeed. Early in the second half, we see the return of the Vincent Young double step over as he cuts inside and shoots, but unfortunately finds row H. But exciting to see. And a few minutes later, Holy makes a decent reaction save from Jayasimi. Seems to be making some saves at the moment, Holy, which is exciting. And he's called into action again after some sloppy play from McGuinness and did well. Seems to be hitting a bit of form now, Holy Craig, after a few weeks of refusing to dive.
Yes, put Rich back in his box, isn't it? maybe it's Carl, the new goalkeeping coach.
Quite possibly. What do you think that Carl has brought this philosophy to the goalkeepers, where you say, try and save the shots?
Yeah, dive. Have a go at diving. Try and save the shots that aren't straight at you.
Lovely stuff. So Dobra comes on for Bennett's, and soon after Kenlock and Sears come on for Ward and Bishop. But it's Charlton who enjoy the best chances. But yeah, I don't really have anything particularly interesting to write down. 0-0 is how it stays. So it's now over 7 hours without a goal. For Ipswich, that is. And that was the 4th 0-0 in 6 games. So it's beginning to feel like the end of last season, where every game I watched seemed to end 0-0. Under weaknesses, Craig, you've put goals.
Yeah, creating chances. It was, as Seb says, you can sort of you can see why we don't score many goals, but you can also see how the formation could potentially work once everyone's up to speed and used to playing, etc. And to be fair to Cook, what he has done, when he came in, he said, look, this is me, 4-2-3-1, this is how we're going to play. He tried it for, 3, 4, 5 games, didn't work. All right, you bunch of wasters, let's try something your way. Let's play the way you want to play. All right, you can't score using that either. Let's go back to my way and, we'll like it or lump it sort of thing. So at least this way he can see who can and who can't perform within this formation and this structure, because it is the way that we are going to play next year. Got no problem with that at all. If we can keep Kane Vincent Young fit, he'll thrive in it. I'm 100% sure of that. I'm not sure Stephen Ward will thrive in it. Poor old guy was blowing, wasn't he? Pretty much as soon as the second half whistle went to start the second half. He played well first half. He's down near the corner flag, wasn't he? More often than not, down near the Charlton corner flag. But again, he just run out of steam. And interestingly, post match, sorry, Mikey, you may come onto it, but one of the comments that Paul Cook said was, when I make substitutions, I don't want to be making substitutions because my players are unfit and can't last 90 minutes. I want to be making substitutions to impact a game and, change tactics or refresh things, whatever happens to it. I don't want to be doing it because so-and-so is blowing out his backside, which, goes back to pre-seasons and players being fit enough for playing a certain way, etc., etc. The same as separately, I thought Dazelle played better than he has done. He was certainly, getting forward with the ball more, wasn't he? He was more progressive with his passing. Be interesting to see what they do with that midfield three, wouldn't it? Downs, Dazelle, Bishop, whether they give them a few games to see what they can do as a three. I don't really think, does Bishop do enough as a number 10 to warrant a start? I don't know. He's another one that's out of contract.
Just doesn't have enough goals in his game, does he? He doesn't have a shot. No. He doesn't really have a shot from outside the box.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and to be fair, that was another thing, wasn't it? The weekend is that Dazelle had a time when he sort of broke free, and I can't think who was running in front. It might have been Jackson was running pretty much parallel to him, but just a little bit ahead. Wasn't giving any sort of angle to pass it through to. I thought, well, have a shot. You're 20 yards out, like Downs was the other night against Wimbledon. You've broken through. You've broken the lines. You're 20 yards out. You're middle of goal, and it just doesn't seem to enter the head. Or they haven't got the confidence to have a go and have a shot. The same with the Edwards one where it got played across to him.
Same with all of our midfielders, isn't it? We've got too many attacking players that can't shoot. How can you get to that level of football and not be able to shoot from distance or even just shoot from the edge of the box? Keenan Bennett just hits the ball so hard and he just can't seem to keep up in the same postcode when he shoots. Downs, you never really see have a shot, but maybe like breaking into the box late, he might pop up with a couple of headers here and there. You can probably allow Downs not being so good at shooting because he does play slightly deeper. But if Dazelle wants to play a bit higher, Bishop, Guion Edwards' shooting technique is just...
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it? They just dribble towards the goal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, as I sort of alluded to before, is that they also want it to be perfect for them before they will have a shot. It's not as if we'll ever have a shot that's not quite rolling to us perfectly. If it's not rolling to me perfectly, I'm going to have a touch and maybe another touch to get it out my feet before I will have a shot. Just have a go. Just like Kane Vincent-Young did when he cut inside and hit it with his left. You can just have a go. No one's going to berate you. There's no one in the bloody ground to moan and groan at you. So just have a go. What's the worst that can happen? You can have a shot and it might go in.
Yeah, maybe the Blue Monday podcasters will mention your shot and slag it off, but aside from that...
and then wave you goodbye at the end of your 2-year contract. Yeah, that's right.
But it's frustrating, isn't it? Because at the start of the season, Edwards was scoring relatively frequently and Bishop was as well. Nolan was chipping in with goals. So we know they kind of do have it in their locker, but for whatever reason, they just don't seem willing to give it a go. It's really weird. Is it months of Lambert ball and, passing it back and retaining possession? Is it a confidence thing? I don't know. It's just so frustrating because, like you said the other night, Craig, against Wimbledon with Downs and a couple of times, and just hit the damn thing. You might get a lucky deflection, it might go in. You might get a deflection and it pings to somebody on the edge of the box. Just try something rather than 90 minutes of knocking it around and then putting in a pointless cross which the keeper collects fairly comfortably. It's so frustrating, isn't it, sometimes?
Yeah, I don't know if I ever mentioned that I interviewed Matt Holland for Blue Monday last year, and he talked about how George Burley would tell him to, in that instance, use the driver. Nice mug that, by the way, Craig. Use the driver, so just put your laces through the ball. And yeah, you mentioned those goals from Nolan and Bishop earlier on the season, but they were pretty much goals where they've caressed the ball into the corner. None of them seem to have the driver in the locker, or even a 3-wood. They're all just sort of, without going too golf technical, because I know you two aren't interested, but they seem to be hitting like little drawn 7-irons at best.
Yeah, for the FIFA crowd, it's that finesse shot, isn't it? It's the
is it R1? R1 is always held down every shot. Yeah,
it is exactly that. Yeah, exactly what it is.
The R1 button is stuck.
That's as modern as my references are going to get today. What was that?
How are you
FIFA
doing,
90
young kids?
FIFA 98 I was referring to there, by the way.
Wonderful. The indoor game as well. Seb, so if it is a bit of an audition for some of these players to prove who can play in the 4-2-3-1, who do you think made a decent account of themselves for that formation?
Well, I think Dazelle was probably the man of the match, and it was great to have KVY back and Touchwood. Hopefully, he came through the 90 minutes with no real issues. Apart from that, I thought Downs was fairly subdued yesterday, but we know he's got it in his locker to be one of those two of the two in midfield supporting the front three. But again, the three behind the striker, I guess Bennett, Bishop, and Edwards, none of them really did it for me. I guess he'll look to replace those three positions because they'll be so crucial to how he wants to play. Jackson, I thought, did better than recent games, but for me, he's still playing too often with his back to goal, and he just can't do that role at all, can he? We never seem to have him on the shoulder of the last man with a through ball ping through to him for him to really open up and use his pace. So for me, Dazelle was probably the big win yesterday, and the biggest plus, KVY getting 90 minutes. Thankfully, I think they proved they could do it, and with a real decent pre-season and with a KVY type player on the left as a left back, that could really be exciting next year with two fullbacks bombing on for 90 minutes.
Jackson was frustrating again, wasn't he, yesterday? But he's a funny old player, isn't he, Jackson? I'd just be amazed to know, A, why Bournemouth bid £1 million plus for him last summer. What did they think they were getting? And B, what the hell their fans would have thought had he signed, having dropped down from the Premier League to suddenly sign a guy, a sprinter, basically. It's... No, because he hasn't.
Did that definitely happen? Because at the time, I just thought, that just reeks of his agent just trying to get his name out there and trying to get him a move. But
even the Huddersfield one in January was confirmed, I think, wasn't it? Didn't Lambert throw it out, but somebody else did come out and admit it. It might have been Leo Neal, maybe. So people do sort of see something in him, I guess, but I'm not sure. I mean, I know last year he's coming off, was it 11 goals, 11 assists?
If you looked at highlight reel from last season, like you say, all those goals and assists, his best bits are pretty good from last season. He actually had a decent season last year, didn't he?
Yeah, but it's too few and far between, isn't it? And certainly for the formation that Cook wants to play, I just don't see it at all where he fits into a formation that certainly that front four. He's not going to be there, is he? It's not. It just doesn't work. So I know he's at a contract. I know we've got an option, and Phil on those other days wonders whether we'll trigger it just to sell him. You've got to be pretty sure that someone's going to come in and buy him to make it worth your while gambling that it's worth another year's contract. See, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes, because I just don't see how he fits into that system.
And now with a COVID hit financial market, we're looking at what, a couple of $100,000, $300,000 for him tops, maybe. You're going to get nowhere near the levels of bids we had on offer last year and last January. So it's a hell of a risk to trigger it and then be stuck with him for another 12 months. So I can see him being released and another asset wasted, I guess. What was he, 1.6 million, was he?
Yeah,
crazy, isn't it? The money
just that entire stand, wasn't it? Accrington. That's how he's valued.
Him and Donatian paid for a stand. Yeah.
Wonderful. Let's go to the other results before we do the Twitter questions this time. So Peterborough and Hull both won. Peterborough 3-1 against Northampton, who we play on Tuesday. Hull 2-1 against Fleetwood. Wigan seems to be winning every week now. All the teams down the bottom seems to be winning every week now. They beat Crewe 2-0. Burton drew 1-1 with Plymouth. Blackpool won at home to Sunderland. A big result for them. Rochdale won 3-1 against the aforementioned Accrington. Milton Keynes Dons beat Portsmouth, which is why we are only 4 points off the playoffs somehow. Doncaster did win, though, and they've got a game in hand on us. Lincoln, big win for them away at Bristol Rovers. AFC Wimbledon, good side, very good side. They beat Swindon 4-1. And Oxford, who have moved into the playoff places, 3-2 winners against Gillingham. So that top 10, you'd say. So that looking at it, the top 3 is going to be the top 3. We just don't really know what order. So that's Hull top, Peterborough second, Sunderland third. And then Lincoln have suddenly picked up again. They're now in 4th on 69 points. Blackpool 1 point behind on 68. Then it's Oxford who are in 6th place on 65. Portsmouth have got a game in hand. They're also on 65. We've also got a game in hand. We're on 61. Charlton are 2 points above us with a game in hand. And yeah, Doncaster have got a game in hand as well. So those games in hand, that could be our playoff push over if those are won.
Just a couple of things, Mikey, just to go back, just as you were talking through those results, which sort of triggered something for me, is that Blackpool, as you say, on a hell of a run at the moment. But last summer, when they brought, is it Neil Critchley? In Critchley, isn't it, from the Liverpool academy coach? I think they signed 17, 18 players last summer. And I was on the Blackpool pod with those guys, and me and Joe went on the reverse one as well. And at the first time I spoke to them, before we played them away and beat them quite convincingly from a scoreline perspective, nothing else, they were really umming and ahhing about this guy. And he said, he's trying to overhaul the way we're playing, and it's not working, etc., etc. We're not sure how long he's going to have. It just goes to show that it does take a while just to get your ideas across, and now they're reaping the rewards of sticking with him. But it just goes to show that it's taken from summer through to spring to get that momentum and get everyone knowing how he wants them to play. And I say the results are coming now. And then similarly, Portsmouth, you look at the comments from the Portsmouth fans, you can pretty much replace the word Portsmouth with Ipswich.
They want, a lot of them want rid of half the squad, and that might be
underperforming wasters that are using up the shirt.
Right, that brings us nicely onto the first Twitter question. I'll come to you, Seb. Will Prowse asks, will Ipswich ever score again?
I really hope so, because it's hard doing these, isn't it? Some of the live streams I've done with Rich are just, we sit there for an hour and think, what are we going to talk about? Hopefully, God will get a lucky deflection, or God forbid, maybe a penalty. We had a penalty yet this season. I know Nord missed one, didn't he? But maybe we'll get something, please, in the next game against Northampton. They got hammered. Was it 3-1? Wasn't it, against Peterborough? So please, God willing, let's have at least one goal and something to talk about for the guys doing the live stream on Tuesday night.
Craig, what was the score the last time we played Northampton?
Yeah, trying to think. God, that was atrocious, wasn't it, that one?
I think that was the worst, was it? That was the worst, I think. At the time, that was the worst, yeah.
Thing is, as well, I don't know, we should hark back to the chat we had with the Blackpool guys. Because we hadn't played them at all at that point in time, and they said to us, bloody hell, Northampton are absolutely awful. So regardless of all these teams we played, they looked awful. They were a right rabble. But didn't they'd replaced Curl, hadn't they, like a game or two before we played them, hadn't they? Off the top of my head, I think. So we'd sort of hit them at the wrong time, as it were.
Along came Ipswich. Tim Pashley, chaps, missed both, in brackets, fortunately. But which was the better watch, ITFC or the funeral? Did you catch any of that? I know you're a big royalist, Craig.
No, I didn't actually. No, I didn't. I hear there were more shots on target in the funeral than there were at the Valley. But no, I didn't watch either. I've paid my due respects by virtue of various minutes silence. But no, I didn't tune in to watch that. I went for a walk instead.
Okay. FPL Tractor. We're all going to read too much into every team sheet for the rest of the season. But did any decisions today strike you as significant, Seb? Enciala Nydam not in the 18, Edwards still in the 11.
Well, Enciala came out after he was injured, wasn't he? So I guess he was a bit of a surprise. Nydam, I thought he'd be in for a good shout of starting. I wasn't sure how much he played in the week for the under-23s, but I was quite hopeful he might get a game. I thought Dizelle looked a bit leggy in the last few weeks / months, so I thought maybe Nydam might come in alongside Downs in midfield or even at left back. He was training up to be a kind of a left back in the preseason when he got injured. So I think we could hopefully maybe see him do a job there. Edwards is probably playing because do we have any other wide options? I guess maybe Lancaster could pop in there, but given all his comments about Demolition Man and going to rip it all up, there weren't that many. Chambers was the big one, obviously. There weren't that many surprises, I don't think, on the team sheet when it was announced compared to what we thought. I mean, I wouldn't have been surprised if Simpson, Dobra, Nydam, if a load of the kids had started on Saturday based on his comments, but we just didn't really get that, did we?
I was trying to find a little gif of someone pushing a Jenga block gently out of a tower to like represent Paul Cook's demolition of the team. But no, it's just
there's a little insight into the mind of Craig Finbow. That is.
Yeah, it was into the
tried to find a gift but couldn't.
Into the sarcastic mind of Craig Finbow. It was a strange one that McGuinness played. It came out of the blue, wasn't it? It'd be nice to see Wolfenden play centrally, I think, for the next 5 matches, won't it? Just to get him a proper run of games where he should be playing, hopefully next year. As Seb said, pretty much the only reason Edwards and Bennett's played is because there's bugger all else to
nothing else is there. No other
play in those positions. Well, Freddie Sears.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like, just going back to Wolfenden, I feel like this is a big few weeks for him to try and earn some trust, because he's a player that will probably be there next season.
Yeah,
and he did all right, I thought, as well. He did okay. Yeah. A couple of times he showed pace to stay with his man quite well, and no real. McGuinness made an error in the second half. Wolfenden didn't really. So this is like his audition now, isn't it? Like you said, it's his chance to really prove to Cook that he can do it, and Cook can trust him as one of his players moving forward. I guess the big issue for the next few weeks will be who partners him. McGuinness won't be here. NCR, we don't know how long he's injured for. Wilson seems to be probably done for the season. Maybe he's disappeared again. So I guess Chambers is the big one. Is Cook going to bring Chambers back alongside Wolfenden like we saw for so much of last year, or is he going to look to keep playing the two youngsters for the remaining 6-7 games?
I think that will tell us a lot, though, won't it? I think if he does play McGuinness rather than Chambers for the next match or two, it seems a strange thing not to have Chambers play. But you would have thought, and this is purely speculation on my behalf, is that one of the main signings we'll be looking for will be a Tony Mowbray type centre-half leader, warrior. Well, not necessarily warrior, because he wants more ball-playing centre-halves, but, just a proper, solid centre-half to play along. Yeah. Well, he's coming back, so you might as well register him as well.
I think we saw it yesterday.
Hugh King's back on.
I wouldn't mind McGuinness from Charlton, to be honest. Yesterday, I thought he was pretty decent. The Charlton centre-back. I think we could do worse than look at somebody like him in the summer. But the Chambers thing will be strange, won't it? Because he's made these comments post-match as well, as he's saying there might be a role for Luke, but it might look slightly different to what he's got at the moment. So is he maybe, pointing out to Chambers that this is how it might be next year? I guess you've got to get used to the bench if you're gonna look to stay. He clearly wants to make a change there, but it's a strange one. A lot will depend. If Chambers plays 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the next 6 games, then I guess we might see him potentially offered something as a backup role. If he's bombed out altogether and doesn't really get off the bench, then is it a time to shake hands and move on?
Yeah. Personally, I'd keep hold of Chambers and do just that. Have him as the backup option. I'd bring in a new experienced centre back, but I would definitely keep Chambers around, because he doesn't let the side down when he plays centre back. And he doesn't really let the side down when he plays right back.
And he's always fit as well, isn't he? If you want somebody you can always guarantee to be on the bench, worst case, be on the bench 46 times a season, and he's going to train hard every single week, it is Chambers. He's probably played the most football out of anybody this season.
Whereas I'm different. I wouldn't have him.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. Because he kind of embodies the last few years at the club, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, but it's no disrespect to Chambers, because as we were saying about Alan Judge has very possibly been in the top 5 performers this season, as has Luke Chambers. I've got no problem at all with Luke Chambers as a player. He's played perfectly, reasonably okay. Certainly in terms of the defence, I appreciate what he brings to the club and stuff like that. But I wouldn't have him in my first team squad if the club want to keep him on and he wants to stay on and work with the kids, or because we know he's very good with the youth teams and bits and pieces like that. And I know that he's actually good, communicating and congratulating the youth teams on when they do well and bits and pieces like that. No problem at all. They've got no issue at all with Luke Chambers as a person or a player. I just think it just needs a complete clean sweep in my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair enough. To be honest, I'm in a position where I stand on it is I wouldn't be overly disappointed either way, but I'd lean towards keeping hold of him as a squad member. Rob Smith asks, is there anything more infuriating than our lack of tempo, e.g. Holy's slow distribution, deliberation over free kicks before playing back to the goalkeeper? Now, this one absolutely drives me insane as well, because we keep hearing that these games are must win. And then we're so slow with throw-ins and, like I said, goal kicks and everything at the end of the game. Well, is there anything more infuriating than that, Seb? Maybe Matt Hancock?
There's just no intensity, is there? No intensity. We always look to slow things down, even if we're in a good, decent position. I mean, that clip that was it you, Craig, sent out yesterday, where we have the free kick and then we send it back, and it just sums us up for the entire season. Let's be honest. Even under Lambert, we were so slow. We never looked to break quickly on sides, which is frustrating because there is a bit of pace in our side now with KVY and Bennett's potentially. I guess they're quite quick guys, but so many times over the years we've seen us just slow it down and take your time, and it's just infuriating is the right word for it. It's so frustrating to watch because we all know it's going to happen as well. Never once do we think to ourselves, right, Holy's claimed it, let's get a quick throw out, let's get some bodies forward, let's look to hit teams on the counter. It's just not something we do, and I guess that'll be one of the things we'll look to sort out in pre-season. And I guess fitness comes in with that as well. A few games recently we've had a good 15-20 minute spell where we have kind of a decent bit of tempo, but as soon as that fitness starts to drop, we just stop instantly, and it'll be fairly high, I would think, on Cook's bucket list to sort out in the summer.
Thing is as well, it's not just us that know it's going to happen, it's the opposition know it's going to happen, because it happened all the time yesterday in that as soon as we had a free kick and we just knocked it 2 yards left or right, Charlton were on us and they were pushing us, and all of a sudden they were just pushing us back, and it's back with Holy again. So it's other opposition aren't stupid, that they'll be on it as well. And I say, as we said before, pre-season's where it's at. It's not how Cook wants to play. He said it time and time and time again. It's not how he wants us to play. He wants us to play on the front foot. He wants us to play quicker. I'm just interested to see how this is all going to affect Dazelle, really, in terms of, we know he likes just a little bit of time on the ball and just to get things right, but he'll need to quicken up. But that may come by virtue of having more players making the right runs and him being able to pick those passes. So I'm absolutely intrigued to see if and how Dazelle can fit into to this midfield going forward.
Excellent. And the next question is, with Cook liking a higher tempo game than our lads are capable of playing, do you think the pain he was talking about the other day is also in reference to a harder pre-season than the remaining players are accustomed to? Let's be honest, they need shaping up. This is something we've kind of talked throughout this podcast, isn't it? That the players need to be fitter. Do you think when he mentions pain, he means physical pre-season pain as well?
I think I don't know if it'll be a harder pre-season. It'll just be a different pre-season to get us fit enough and dynamic enough to play the way that Cook wants us to play, won't it? He's, as I say, he said before, he doesn't want to be making subs at this point in the season. I know they've played lots of games, but they should be fit enough to make their way through 90 minutes of football without having to be dragged off after 60 because they're blowing out the backside. So, as I say, he'll get them fit enough. Maybe it might help if we had a fitness coach in the country. I was going to say building there, but actually I'm going to expand that by saying let's have a fitness coach within the same country that we're in. But again, he'll get them fit and he'll get them firing for pre-season, I'm sure. And
Seb, just the last question here from Andy Mack. Where's the next Charlie Wyke, and can we get him? I know a lot of people didn't want Charlie Wyke when we were linked with him in the summer.
Yeah, well, his record wasn't amazing, was it, until this season when Sod's Laurie starts banging them in left, right, and centre. I guess Johnson Clark Harris was the other one as well in the summer. I don't know how true that was, but when we doing our due diligence on him, somebody said, and there were bids of 600 grand rumoured and stuff. So you'd like to think with the new model and the new owners coming in and the new departments and a CEO, we might properly do some proper scouting this time rather than rely on people that have played for the manager before, etc. The whole recruitment model needs to change. We're not shopping in the bargain basements anymore. Hopefully we'll be looking to get in some real quality, and you'd like to think a real dedicated recruitment and scouting team will have what clubs like Brentford and Bristol City to a certain degree, and heaven forbid Norwich, they might start to look more than one window in advance. We buy this player now, and in 2 windows time we identify that player. Let's have a proper recruitment team and some proper long-term strategic planning for our recruitment, because for years now we've just gone off fag packet sums and word of mouth, and all that has to change now, and I think it will.
But in terms of that though, Seb, just before I go on to that, in terms of Johnson Clark Harris, if we'd have bought him, he'd have been scoring 6 goals this season, wouldn't he?
Yeah, true,
he wouldn't have been scoring 27 goals for us, because he wouldn't have had 27 chances to score from. In terms of as you rightly say, in an ideal world, we'd be looking 2-3 windows ahead, but that all comes from the fact that the manager or coach needs to be playing the same way. We've gone from a manager who played slow pedestrian football to a manager who now wants to play high tempo attacking front foot football. Okay, well, therefore this summer we'll be recruiting for that. As long as in 2, 3, 4 transfer windows time, either Cook's still going to be here, or it's going to be a manager who still wants to be, working with players who are playing high tempo front foot attacking football. Otherwise, there's no point in it. The whole summer is going to be absolutely fascinating. I'm a little bit giddy and excited by it all, to be perfectly honest. I just hope they don't go down my route of when I'm playing Football Manager and just go out and basically buy everyone who's available. And let's see. We'll see how that goes. But I say, go on.
Sorry, just the final question, Craig. I was going to ask you because you've seen Ipswich conquer Europe. Choppertron, I know he's a Tottenham fan, but he asked, do you think Ipswich will be a part of the new European Football League, the European Super League, sorry, given their pedigree? Should they? Maybe in a few years, Patrick, maybe in a few years.
Well, the teams seem to just be choosing whether they're going to join it or not, regardless of their, how well they're doing. If Arsenal are going to join it and they're halfway up the bloody Premier League, then, let's see what how we can join. Saying that, while we're talking, there's a game going on at Wembley, and there are actually fans in the ground, isn't there? So, things are looking up. Don't book that holiday for the end of May just yet.
Lovely stuff. So, the Blue Monday team will be back on Tuesday night for a live stream, as Seb says. Hopefully, we'll have something to talk about this time after the Northampton game. I'm going to do a quick plug for this week's Premier League World, or I guess it will be last week's Premier League World, which featured a nice interview with one of our old favourites, Shefki Kuchi, who talks about fleeing a war-torn Kosovo as a child, as well as his superb career in English football. A couple of mentions in there for Ipswich. Another thing to plug, of course, is Benjamin Bloom's interview on Mark Ashton with Bristol-based journalist Gregor McGregor. Please check that one out if you haven't already. That's one that won't be going out of date anytime soon. Anything you guys would like to plug before we call it a night?
Oh, actually, just one quick thing. Today's the 15th anniversary of John Lyall's death. So I just want to put that out there. And I know Simon Milton's been on social media a fair bit today referencing it. I think went to his grave and bits and pieces like that. But that's the little photo my Parrot design poster in the corner there for that 91-92 season. So, anyone of my vintage whose favourite season was that one, that's a little bit of remembrance for you.
Proper football gentleman, wasn't he, Craig?
Yeah, absolutely. Liked to fag, didn't he, as well? And if just referencing the chat I had with Jason Dezell, which is still readily available, he obviously talks about him. And honestly, he has, again, had nothing but really great things to say about him, about the way he treated his players. And, as you say, hard as a hard football man, but, gentle and looked after his players, and such a great man manager as well. And so the way that Simon Milton talks about him is, tells everything, really.
Yeah. And Seb, anything from you? Where can our viewers and listeners find you on Twitter?
Just at BrownS08, and like you said at the start of the pod, please make sure you subscribe to get all the latest content from ourselves, and buy some chicken as well.
Yeah, and now's a good time to like the video as well. So, we're at the end of the show. So, thanks for listening and watching, and wish for whatever you like.